Hello and welcome to this video. In this video, I will show you how to host your own website on your own PC. Basically, how you can make your own web hosting server. So this is very helpful projects, beginner level projects for IT learner. So yeah, as you can see on my screen, I am running a website on localhost 80 port 80. As you can see, this is dummy website, ISP related website. And if you click here, get solution, and let's say if I enter a dummy data, let's say internet not working or port forwarding not working. So yeah, and let me complain this issue. So here you can see submission successful, and this front end is based on Next.js, which is JavaScript framework. And I have also implemented a server.js with Node.js programming language. Node.js is a backend programming language. I'm using Node.js framework, Express.js, and this is my backend. So this form is submitted into this admin dashboard. And who can log in this admin dashboard? Not everyone, but I have hard coded just to show you that admin@gmail.com can only log in. So if you know this, then you can log in this website. So if you click here, and as you can see, the submission. If I open a new tab, and if I again click on admin, as you can see, the data is still persist because I am using IDB, which is local database. Okay, so automatically it expires after 33 days. So this is the full application, and currently it is running on my local machine Windows 10. So if you want to host this website, for example, if I want to host this website, I have to go to a free service like Render, Node.js, or cloud service, cloud, uh, digital ocean, Node.js projects. So all these we have services. You can see you can host here freely if you are on free trial just for testing purpose. Hobby level projects and cloud, digital ocean. There are a lot of web hosting, but in this video we are going to make our PC own web hosting server. So for this we have two methods. Okay, we have two methods: with domain and without domain. With domain, you need to have a domain, and without domain, this is actually instant share. You can share the instant URL to anyone, but URL is not permanent here. Meaning, if you close that server, then the URL will not work. And if you generate another one, the URL will be different. So this is without domain and with domain. So let me first show you without domain. And without domain, we have something called port forwarding. So by doing port forwarding in the router, this is my Huawei router. forward rules. Every router has port forwarding rules. You just need to find where it is. As you can see, this is what do you call port forwarding, but in our case, port forwarding will not work. That's why I will not waste your time, and I will show you why our port forwarding will not work. If port forwarding would work, then we will easily host our local host servers. But the time has changed, that previously people used to host their own servers, gaming servers, web applications, and many more. But nowadays, with port forwarding, it is not possible alone, because the ISPs, internet service provider companies, are using a new model called a type of NAT, which is called CGNAT, carrier grade network address translation, or it is called large scale NAT. So it is a type of NAT that ISP is using. So how do you know that our port forwarding, if we implement in this service, is will not work? So there are ways to find. For example, first of all, find your public IP, which ISP is giving to you. And we all know that on the internet, on different networks, if you want to communicate with another network, for example, you want to send WhatsApp message to your Australian friend, or those relatives who are living outside your country, or even outside your home network, which is your outside of your Wi-Fi network, on Facebook, WhatsApp. In this case, the public IP is what the device communicate between them, not the private IP address. For example, if I open my CMD, and the IP of this device is 100.105. This is class C IP address. This is not public IP address. This is private IP address. So on internet, the public IP is routable. So to need to find it, just simply type what is my IP, and you will get a lot of websites, and just open one of them, and as you can see, here is my IP4 version. This is my public IP that is communicating on the internet. So to know, port forwarding will not work if we do port forwarding in our router, is to first find your public IP address. This is my public IP address, and go to your router WAN address. Just find wherever it is. For example, there are WAN here option, and if I click here, and here also WAN option. So just to find your WAN IP address that is inside your router, log in your router and find your WAN IP address. Look for public IP. Look for public IP that is on your browser right now. Currently, my public IP coming from, this is coming from ISP, because on internet IP version 4 public IP is routable, not private IP. So this is my public IP, and just navigate and find in your router WAN IP address, and you can see IP version 4 is 10.82.28.222. But here our IP version 4 is something else. So this doesn't match your ISP, what a public IP is giving, and in your router, the ISP is providing this IP address, which is not the same. So this IP 10.82.28.222 is not public IP address. It is private IP address. So your public IP address coming from ISP, and in the router your WAN IP, wide area network IP version 4 address. If they are the same, then port forwarding will work directly without any configuration. But here you can see that our router is having private IP version 4, which is not the same as IP version 4 public IP coming from ISP. So in this case, port forwarding will not work. So we have earlier something called, so this is the first way, and why it's not working I have shown you, because the public IP address coming from ISP and your router has one IP which is not the same, so port forwarding will not work. So what are other solutions? We have static IP, and it is very expensive, not everyone can buy it, and you have to if you need, if you are in, if you have a bigger organization, you need to contact ISP for that. So the other solutions we have called uh, unlocking these services, and this is done through what do you call tunnel VPN, by creating tunnel VPN, and this carries with domain and without domain, which includes temporary and dynamic URL and permanent URL, which is with domain. Okay, so there are different services that provides to host your own local web server, even if your public IP address and the IP address of your router is not the same. So these are the services well known, like for example we have Cloudflare, and we have NG Rock, then we have Tunnel something called, and service like Tailscale and other reliable services. So these services will provide you how to host, how to create your own web hosting through your own PC and expose your local net or local web server or any other services on the internet, so the user from the worldwide can access your website. If your server is running on your PC and you have electricity running, means your PC has a power. So this way, the web hosting companies also design this type of web hosting, but here we are creating our own web hosting services. So to bypass this, we have a lot of services. So first we will see uh, without domain. Before that, before I show you the solutions, let me explain the concept behind this. As I told you that why port forwarding nowadays not work, because the IP that ISP is assigning into our home routers is not the public IP address like before, but nowadays they are configuring, they are giving private IP address in the router. So to find that, just type your what is my IP in browser, and you look for your WAN IP in the router. If it's different, then yes, port forwarding will not work. It means that ISP is configure their networking through called CGNAT concept. So we need to go back to some of the histories before I show you the solutions. So for example, in the early days, in the early in the early days of internet, uh, the ISP used to register or provide public, as I told you, only on the internet public IP is routable, not private IP. Provide public IP address to each devices. So in the early days of internet history, uh, the ISP companies used to give uh, what do you call directly public IP address to its devices. Okay, so in this period you can call it phase one. In this period, the internet package is very expensive. So the ISP used to give a public IP address to each device. For example, if one person has three phones and one laptop, then one person, the ISP will, they had to give four public IPs. That time the internet was very expensive and there is no concept called net, no VPN, no forwarding, port forwarding needed. And then we come, and as you can see, device 1 public IP, device 2 public IP, device 3 public IP. This was the way. And then the engineer, as we all know that IP version 4 is not much, their addresses is not much available, so they had to create a second concept called NAT, which is still exists on, but in the concept of CGNAT. So what is NAT means, what they did, instead of assigning one public IP to the whole to the each devices, what they did is they placed an intermediary device, which is called modem, nowadays called router has modem and switches and a lot of other features. So they placed a intermediary device which was called that time modem, nowadays it is called router. And in that router they configure call something DSCP, okay, which is called DHCP. Let me show you. As you can see, DHCP server. So this DHCP server provides a range of private IP that is connected to the network. For example, this device, as you can see, if you did IP config, this is my IP version 4 address, but it is not private IP address like this one. This is coming from ISP router, but this is my own PC IP address which is private. So they start placing the intermediary routers and they used to configure DSCP server. This is DSCP server configuration, and the DSCP configuration used to assign each devices a unique private IP in the same network. So whoever comes in the on my Wi-Fi network, whenever they connect, they get a special private IP address, like we have 105, someday 106, 107. So this series goes because it is configured in this router. As you can see, DHCP server configuration. This is class C IP address which is used in a small network, for example home. And we have class A, class B private IP address that used in big organizations like hospitals, hotels. So this is for home purpose. So this is the second phase, okay, and the internet can understand. So in this phase, as you can see, your phone or any device connected to this the network Wi-Fi get private IP, then it goes into router. Then router, what they did, because on internet devices communicated with public IP address, not private. So NAT here means, NAT means, in the router, they convert this private IP into this public IP address. This concept is called NAT. NAT means network address translation. Translator. They convert your private IP to public IP address through router, and they expose on the internet. Then we communicate each other through Facebook Messenger. This is why it is possible. And in this is the second phase. And again, uh, we still have to face public IP version 4 limitations. Okay, so in this case, in this phase 2, the public IP, sorry, the public IP, the internet was a little bit cheaper than previous phase 1, and this is still the net concept exists in CGNAT server. So in this phase, the port forwarding in phase 2, phase 2, the port forwarding was working, and people used to host their own servers, gaming servers and file servers very easily, no need. But as we all know that the scarcity of IP version 4 and the CGNAT concept came, the CGNAT concept came, and the engineer introduced a new concept of designing network through CGNAT. So what is CGNAT? Simply means a type of NAT that is exist, which we have previously called network address translation. So the Cisco has two best articles. So this is why I'm explaining it, because it is very important to note why our port forwarding is not working and the history of IP allocation I am describing here. So what is network address translation? As you can see, this is a very good article, and you can see. And we, in the third phase, I showed you why port forwarding is not working in this case, because the public IP address which is routable on the internet is not the same as WAN IP in my router. That's why it's not working. Why it's not working? Because nowadays ISP designed their internet service using concept called CGNAT. CGNAT means a type of NAT. This is a type of NAT on, and as you can see, CGNAT means carrier grade network address transfer, also known as large scale service provider. And you can see, so here they explain that in traditionally we have CG NAT concept. So, for example, customer AB has a one router in which the ISP plays directly public IP address, and I explained to you in phase 2. And from the router, the devices connected to this router, they used to get a private IP address, class A IP address or class C IP address. Then, and the same case for class B. As you can see, this public IP address is different 20.1, and this is different 20.2. This is the routable IP version 4 address. Okay, so they used to place public IP version 4 in the router earlier in the traditional NAT concept, but this is not the case in our today case in CGNet concept. So this is traditional NAT, and all this goes to ISP router, public IP version 4, then they use to communicate on the internet. So this is concept, traditional NAT concept. Now come to the CGNet concept. In CGNet concept, customer B, they share the same public IP address. As you can see, WAN address. This is public IP version 4 coming from ISP router. And you can see this is, sorry, this is the different, and this one is also different. But in CGNet concept, But in CGNAT concept here, public IP version 4 is shared same to same. So here they are not giving any public IP version 4, but still behind the scene they are using the same public IP version 4. Okay, but in the case of traditional NAT, there is one there is two different, behind the scene there is two different public IP version 4 for router A, for router B. They are not showing here, but this is what it is behind the scene. As you can see here, the customer A assigned 50 40 20.1. As you can see here in the diagram, these are public IP version 4, which is routable in the internet. Sorry, as I said earlier, they are not showing here. Actually, this is what is called public IP. So this is called public IP. But in case of CGNAT, in the router, they are not giving directly public IP address. Rather, they are giving a WAN address, which is a private IP. So 100.64.1.10, 100.64, as I showed you in my router. Let me show you again. Go to WAN, and as you can see, starting from 1082. So this is not a public IP, this is private IP as explained here. But in NAT concept, they used to place the public IP directly in the router, but in CGNet they are not placing the public IP address directly, rather a type of private IP, reserved private IP, they configure in the router called WAN private IP. So then it goes through CGNAT server, then it goes through ISP router. So in the CGNAT concept, the port forwarding will not work. First, they go to the router. Earlier, they used to translate directly into a public IP, which is called NAT, but now it goes to the second private IP. In the traditional NAT concept, they used to translate the private IP directly into public IP. But now in CGNet concept, that's why port forwarding not work nowadays. Directly, you have to set up other configuration, because the router, they are not assigning directly public IP address. Rather, they are giving another private IP address. So this, our devices, for example, this PC goes to this router, and this is also private IP address, but private IP address is not routable in the internet, cannot be reached in the internet. So what they did is placed a concept called CGNAT server. So CGNAT server, what they do this, they first this a the private IP address goes to this router private IP address, then this CGNAT server router translate the customer A, customer B, customer C, customer D, n numbers of customers router into one single same public IP address. Remember, in NAT concept, we used to have different, as you can see, 50 40 20.1, a different public IP version 4 address. But in this CGNet concept, they serve one public IP address, same one public address for n numbers. If they want 10 customers, they serve one public IP address. So this is the CGNet concept. That's why port forwarding is not working. So we have to go to the other solution, third-party solutions. And as I showed you that we have two methods, with domain and without domain. First, I will show you without domain using Cloudflare, and the second we will use with domain. And there are other service providers like Nvidia, Tail Skills, and other features. So this is the clarification. So yeah, now let's continue, and we are going to see without domains. So the best and easiest way is to bypass CGNAT concept, which I've implemented, is to use Cloudflare. Just type Cloudflare tunnel preview, make sure you have account. And if you go to this documentation, as you can see, it says can be installed on Mac Linux. So first you have to install Cloudflare. Okay, so to install for Windows, you can install two ways, through WinZip and through what you call executable file. So let me install through WinZip, and you can also install through next. Just download from here and install. So I will use PowerShell, just paste the code and install the Cloudflare. Okay, as you can see, it's running. Just wait. So it's downloading from GitHub, which is 18.9 MB, and here the installation started, and it's successfully installed. Now to verify whether install, just type this command and hit enter, and you can see it's successfully installed. So the first step is to install Cloudflare. Now the second step is to run a local service. So to run it, and our project is running on port 80, and as you can see, port 80, which is the default port. So here it says you need to start your Cloudflare tunnel, and it will give you a URL which you can access from your own network, or anyone with this network can access your local computer, this website. So this is the second step. It's very easy. As I told you, just install Cloudflare, and the second step is to run this command and you will get URL. That's it. So we will just copy it, and our local host is running on port 80. So if you have two, ports running, for example, let's say backend running on 5000, then you just need to copy this code and type 5000 for backend. So you need to start the two server, the first front end and the second backend, with two terminals. But in my case, my backend is in the same with front end and running on single port service, that is 80. So I need only one terminal to open. Just open your terminal and paste it. So this is without domain. It will give you a rough dynamic domain. So the disadvantage of this is without domain is that if you, for example, if you stop the server, control C and regenerate, and again you will start this command Cloudflare tunnel URL http localhost, you will get a different URL from this. So it is not a static domain you will get, but every time you will start this server Cloudflare tunnel, you will get a different domain, mock domain. But with domain you will get a permanent URL for always. But just it is without domain, you can access this your local host, this website, from any network. Okay, so let me open it. You can share this link to anyone, and I can show you that my backend is also running. As you can see, it's still running. So anyone with this URL can access my, you know, a website, Node.js, Next.js website from anywhere in the internet. But this should be on. You should not stop this server. If you stop this server, this URL will get disappear. And if you restart the Cloudflare tunnel again, this will give you a new domain name that you need to share. So this is without domain, that is temporary, good for. And there are other services similarly they provide, like ngrock, tunnel, something called, I don't remember the name, and tailscale and other services. And if you want with domain, you need to have a domain. For that, if you want to buy a domain, just a few price, then XYZ, buy that and do your testing, just $4 or $5. Or you can try free nom, free domains, and yeah, you will get 1 year. Basically, mostly their server is down, but if you get it, you can try with that. So this is very easy to bypass the CGNAT server, and with this, and you need to keep running this server on your PC. So as long as your PC is running open and electricity is running always, they always they always can access your website with this URL. But if you close this Cloudflare tunnel, or if you restart your PC or something happen, or you need to change your port number, or anything, then if you regenerate a Cloudflare tunnel, you will get different URL, which is disadvantage. And but for free, this is what you will get. And there is permanent solution with domain, which is called, you need to have domain. Okay, so for this, to with domain, you need to uh, have a domain. So for that, just log in Cloudflare domain, and just go to, for example, I'm showing you the next step, which is with the domain. If you have domain, okay, so with domain, I have created the whole video and showed you exactly in this video, okay, which is unlisted. It is in my native language, Nepali, and I showed you with domain and without domain using Cloudflare. So one thing you will struggle with domain, which I struggle, which you can see in the Nepali video, that is ISP DNS caching issue. DSP caching caching issue, that the ISP, our ISP use aggressive caching. So even if you connect, your domain will not resolve because of DNS ISP caching. So you need to wait, or you need to contact your ISP provider. But I have a solution that I have shown you in this video, in the Nepali video, that is to use is one-to-one Cloudflare wrap. So if you install this one on your PC and run this, you will get, this will force your ISP to clear the cache. Okay, so I showed you without domain, and with domain you will get this struggle. Basically, if all your procedure configuration is correct, even though your domain will not resolve. For that, you have to use a hack, which I showed you, which is one-to-one a tool that is built by Cloudflare that you can use. And with similar things you can find with other services like ngrock, tailscales. Ngrock also provides this type of live preview with fake domains, and for permanent you have to pay. So let me show you the steps that for Cloudflare with domain. So if you have domain, then you need to go to your account, then go to call service called Zero Trust. Okay. So here go to Zero Trust and go to under network and go to tunnel, and you need to create the tunnel. If you create, just add a tunnel and you will get a command to install the tool. Then you will add your domain name in there, and then you will add your this local host port, and within a few minutes your site will be live with domain. So you don't need to, so your domain will not change, will remain exactly as it is. And this is the free methods that you will get with Cloudflare. But with other services like ngrock and other, we have you have to pay. But Cloudflare provide for free, but you need to have a domain. That's the condition. Without it, you will not be able to solve your local web hosting or local website with permanent domain. With this local preview, Cloudflare tunnel, you will get temporary domain name. So this is how you will do, and I showed you that what you will face even if your configuration is current, that is the DNS caching issue by ISP, and you need to use hack call one-to-one with Cloudflare. And this is the same procedure that you should follow with any service provider when you are bypassing the CGNAT ISP server. So this is the whole recap. Okay, let me recap it. So the first thing I showed you that why port forwarding not working nowadays, because our IP version 4 and IP version 4 on router, when IP is not the same, they are giving us a private IP. So I have created this document, and you can read here the history. In the phase 1, they directly assign each device's public IP address. In the second phase, they place an intermediary router, and they used to assign a public IP into the router directly, and the router used to give numerous private IP to the devices connected to the network. And there is a concept called NAT, the ISP use, that they translate the whatever the private IP that is connected to the network, same network, get translated into one public IP address, which is assigned in the router. Then the connection is started on internet. This is the phase 2. In this phase 1 and phase 2, port forwarding is was working. Game servers and local web hosting or file server was working. But with now the phase 3 CGNAT type of net, which is the case that whatever the customer they want, 10, 20, 5, 10, they all save one single public IP address, and each router in this CGNet phase 3 which we are in, the router get a private IP address, reserved private IP address, not public IP address unlike NAT. Okay, so you can find the guide, simple guide here also on Cisco blog. This is very helpful blog. And all these examples, so I showed you how to bypass. And if you read here how we are moving towards why we need IP version 6, as you can see IP version 4's limitation, And we are transitioning to this dual stack, which is the devices run both IP version 4 and IP version 6. And as you can see currently also the router is also configuring this IP version 6 address also. So there is also tunneling and what do you call translation. IP version 6 get translate into IP version 4 or IP version 4 into IP version 6. This is the current era which we are transitions from IP version 4 to IP version 6. So I will share this, this Google Docs with everyone. So this is the URL, you can note it, and I will share this in the description box. So this is the whole scenario that how you can make your own website live through your own PC. You don't have to host on DigitalOcean or any other platform. You just make your own PC as a web hosting server. So whatever the websites or services is running, you can directly expose on the internet, whether it's on Node.js, PHP, Scala, Kotlin, uh, or any front-end framework, that's React, Vue, or any other framework or any other programming language. If that works on your local machine, then it should work on the internet, and that you can configure this. You can make your own PC as a web server that is exposed to the internet. So as long as your PC is running, having internet connections, power, and it's running on your local host, then you can do this to expose on the internet, so that from every part of the world they can access your service. And this is how the web hosting is built on. So this is the project one that I am explaining. It is very foundational project that every network engineer should do practically, without domain, with domain. And with domain I have created earlier, but it's in Nepali language. You can also you can even go through the video even if you don't understand Nepali language, because for us technical people, just screenshot is understandable for us. So this is all for this today. I've showed you the projects, how I created this front-end website, connected back-end website, then it is on localhost, and how can you expose on internet, and what are the phases: IP address location history, phase 1, phase 2 NAT concept, and phase 3 CGNAT, and how we are moving towards IP version 6. So this is the first project that every network engineer want to become, or any IT person needs to have. So yeah, this is much for this video, and I will see you in the next project. And that is how to set up a CCTV camera, which is IP based camera in your home, and the whole architecture that you should know before you dive into. Because I have already configured my IP cameras on my home, and also I have enabled P2P, which is remote viewing, and how to uh, you know match the series of IP um, given by router and the IP that is of camera, how to match it. And when the camera stop working, when we enable P2P version, why it is stopped? It's because the IP of the router and IP of the camera didn't match. So you have to make them, both the device, the router and the IP cameras, on the same network in same series. This is how we solve an extender, PoE, what is PoE, switch, and all of this. And if it's in huge buildings or industries where thousands of camera needed, what is the procedure, like classifying, subnetting, VLAN creations, all of this we will see in the next project too. And the place where there will be no way to go, or no way to wire up or to put a CCTV camera, IP camera. In that case, we will use a Wi-Fi coverage, which is called Wi-Fi camera, which is run through Wi-Fi internet connection, which doesn't need a wire Ethernet, wire Cat6, Cat5 cable. So of course, this has a disadvantage because if the connection loses, then you lost the footage. So this is the project one, and in the project two, I will explain. I will show you my home CCTV setup, a small setup which has two camera enabled currently, and concept of NVR, DVR, and IP cameras, analog cameras, and the whole setup in bigger picture in industry where thousands of camera is needed, like in factories, in hotels, how they set up the CCTV camera surveillance through VLAN setup and subnetting. So this is much for this video, and I will see you in the next video.